That we are.
That we
As
are.
I was trying to find Wardy on the observer list. Poor Wardy has to work the whole day, despite us, getting to work some partial bits of the day. Wardy has to.
Been bullying him as well.
Yeah, man, he has to run the production and everything. We can also be the annoying commentators that basically just gradually talk longer and longer and don't actually introduce the players, thereby forcing Wardy to spend more time just staring at the Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we could definitely choose to do if we want to continue to bully Wardy, I guess. I don't see why Wardy should be bullied. I was going to compliment his mustache. I think that it looks really majestic at this stage. So, Wardy, if you're listening, your mustache is A+ right now.
True. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'll stop bullying Wardy because apparently we just confirmed in the last series that if you bully Wardy, you end up losing your next game of StarCraft. So unfortunate. But down here on the bottom right-hand side of the map, a man who would never, okay, up here on the top left-hand side, right. Down here in the bottom, on the map, Site Delta, we have a German player who's quite good and went out of the round robin stage 3-1. It is Mouse Sports' HeRoMaRinE. There we go.
And his opponent for Berlin International Gaming, it's ShoWTimE.
I'm really proud of myself for figuring out a very ambiguous thing that was true for both players.
That was very good. Very well done on the spot too.
Yeah, but you were talking about how this is a classic match, and you're absolutely right. This is a match that has happened many a time between these two players. But do you know what the match record is between these two guys?
Oh, no. What is it?
It is kind of ridiculous. It's 129 to 146 in favor of ShoWTimE. Just slightly in favor of ShoWTimE.
Yeah, that is absurd. I mean, yeah, ShoWTimE definitely had like HeRoMaRinE has been around from the beginning pretty much. Like they've been around for similar amounts of time, but ShoWTimE hit his peak a little bit earlier than HeRoMaRinE did, whereas HeRoMaRinE, I would say for the last 4 or 5 years has really stepped up his game. It sounds so weird to say like 4 or 5 years, but yeah, since StarCraft is we old 13, it's only a portion.
Yeah, StarCraft is finally hitting that puberty. Our voices are cracking, and we're finally starting to see that maybe romantic relationships aren't the worst thing in the world. But you know what is pretty feels bad man vibe is having a bunker behind your natural that just delays everything. It's just annoying. Even if you do have the ability to clean it up, this is just annoying to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you open that depth, it's not going to be the most adept unit at taking down the bunker, sadly. So, very beautiful grenade as well. Bounces both units. However, a sentry on the top ready to receive the Reaper will eliminate that threat. But the bunker did its job for sure.
Yeah. So, Katz, I know you've been watching a lot of these EPT regional games. How have you been feeling about these kind of Cyclone first openings and stuff that a lot of Terran players have been busting out versus Protoss?
I'm agnostic. I think the Cyclone seems to have a place so far. I don't think it's it's been shown to be completely broken or just break matchups in ways that we were hoping that it wouldn't. Like we haven't been seeing too many like proxy tempests or ridiculous stuff to abuse the gap that the old Cyclone left. So I'd say just give it time. It seems to be playing out fine. I don't think anything's broken from it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you in a lot of that. I will say, and this is from a very personal standpoint of my experience and not talking about top level, proxy tempests have been going quite well for me against the Terrans that don't have Cyclones. But that less important in this particular series. I'm curious about how these early game Cyclone openings have worked out for like the pro level Terran players and just what they're able to accomplish with it across the map when they're able to do little things like this. This is like really cute. A single Widowmine and a single Cyclone in the medevac, and ShoWTimE is actually going to be able to deflect this with just well-positioned stalkers. So very, very well done in just anticipating this.
Yeah, this is a new move that makes sense with the new Cyclone that wouldn't make sense with the old Cyclone. Reason being the lock-on is now instantaneous, right? So you can drop it and actually micro it in and out. Whereas before, if you wasted your lock-on, then you can't really micro it with the medevac. So We've seen HeRoMaRinE do this a couple of times in a couple of his series, so he is definitely looking to experiment with this sort of thing. I think Special has done a little bit of this too. So yeah, it's definitely a new option, and that's always cool to see, but not super effective in this instance.
Yeah, not gonna be able to accomplish a whole lot, but at least he does keep the medevac alive with the Cyclone still intact as well inside the medevac. Stamen Combat Shield's gonna be close to finishing up, but it's worth mentioning that this is kind of now just created a situation where ShoWTimE has Stalkers. Blink is about to finish up, and it's not that he's on some absurd gateway count or anything just yet, as he has 5 on the way soon, but it's all of his units basically just being extremely passive back at home. And really the only aggression on the map right now is HeRoMaRiNE's medevac drop that didn't actually go in. So HeRoMaRiNE hasn't had to deal with any Stalkers poking and prodding his front. He hasn't had to deal with Stalkers potentially blinking up into his main. He's basically just bought himself a lot of space.
He has bought himself a lot of space, but he is also moving out. He doesn't have a third on the way either, whereas ShoWTimE has his already situated. So this attack has to do a lot for him, and Storm is 80% of the way done. So we'll have to see. ShoWTimE has 3 Templars, and they're already on site. They will have Storm as soon as it finishes. So if HeRoMaRiNE can't do any damage with this, now he just drops his 3rd command center. He's going to be in a little bit of trouble potentially.
Oh, 6 seconds until Storm finishes. Oh my god, even just a little bit of time that he spent looping around may actually cost him the ability to avoid all of these storms. Big storms on a lot of these Marines. They're so softened up. Even the medevac's getting softened up. One of them's gonna pop to the storm. Cyclones and everything else gets focus fired down here. And while it's just Stalkers left over against a lot of Marauders, it's more than enough for ShoWTimE to clean house.
Yeah, exactly. And ShoWTimE wasn't really... Oh, this one mine could be huge. Nah, he sees it. But like ShoWTimE, I think, wasn't looking to do much with the Stalkers early on, right? Because the real transition was Storm. So HeRoMaRiNE just kind of hits at an anti-timing of sorts, where Storm is just finishing, and ShoWTimE gets away with the economic advantage that he had been creating for himself. So this pans out really, really well for ShoWTimE, I think, as HeRoMaRiNE is going to be super behind to his 3rd. And ShoWTimE already has situated himself in a good position tech-wise as well.
Yeah, little unfortunate there on the timing there for HeRoMaRiNE. As you were kind of saying, it turns into a bit of an anti-timing, but I can just imagine if HeRoMaRiNE knew that Storm was that close to finishing, he maybe doesn't do the little loop around where he scans and moves his army away. He hits 5-6 seconds earlier. There's a world where he stims up and just gets in on top of the battery or gets in on top of a lot more of the army and is able to get a lot more done there, but doesn't quite end up working out, and now he's in a little bit of a pickle here because 3rd base is now being established, but ShoWTimE is looking to be in a pretty solid position. It's going to be pretty tough to actually bust here until at least the ghosts get out on the map.
Yeah, exactly. There's 3 on the way though, so that's going to help him out. A decent count of Marauders here as well on the side of HeRoMaRiNE. But ShoWTimE is preparing for his own little bit of aggression with the Warp Prism. There is going to be something to spot for it on the other side as these units try to make something happen. Zealots on the flank. Beautiful blink down from ShoWTimE as well to continue on the chase. The Warp Prism is about to run into a Viking. Fortunately for HeRoMaRiNE, he has that on position. Oh my god, so lucky.
That's really unfortunate. Viking moving out at the absolute worst time. As HeRoMaRiNE, you can see the rally on the mini-map of the trickle of units moving across the map at the absolute worst possible time. And, well, this choke point is going to make things a lot more difficult here for ShoWTimE to get consistent damage, but nice micro control there. Sends his Zealots around.
Yeah, also a warping would have been massive here for ShoWTimE, but he didn't know that, right? Like he doesn't know where the army of HeRoMaRiNE is, so chooses not to commit extra units. A warping of Zealots there would have been brutal, would have killed probably a lot more, but 7 SCVs and pulling the army back, not gonna be too sad about that either.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the timing of this, the attack would have been hitting just as the Colossus were popping out, but we're not necessarily going to actually be there at the front lines, nor were they going to have Thermal Lance. Now, first 2 Colossus will be out in time, or actually first 3 Colossus may be out in time for this attack, and Thermal Lance will be done, and Shield Batteries will also be finishing up at that new base. So all of that time that he just bought for himself is absolutely going to be paying massive dividends.
Yes, indeed. Here come the Ghosts at the front with plenty of energy to spare as well. They're gonna take a little bit of a weird angle here up a ramp, but it doesn't matter because ShoWTime's not in position at all, so it ends up being a wonderful position for HeRoMaRinE. Beautiful feedbacks, however, on the side of ShoWTime. No EMPs go down, and now ShoWTime can just chase with impunity. Doesn't want to run into Widow Mines, and he would be right about that to expect them. So, yeah, pretty nice defense, all things said and done.
Yeah, doesn't seem like the wall is going to be broken in any of those attacks early on. A decent force of units on the north side are going to be threatening things here for ShoWTime, where there's really only Stalkers and a shield battery. A couple of Zelts getting warped in, though, and that, I think, should be enough to push things back, although the Widowmine's getting quite a bit of damage done.
Yeah, a couple of Stalkers are gonna fall. They will be cleared right after as HeRoMaRinE continues with the multi-pronged harass here. There's a Colossus on site, but no battery overcharge as it was just used on the other side. So the Nexus could have maybe been targeted down, but there's not enough as HeRoMaRinE deems it when ShoWTime's forces return to push him out.
Yeah, feedbacks keeping those medevacs very, very low on energy for the moment, but does seem like HeRoMaRinE will be able to get out of there alive with most of these units for the moment. Oh, ShoWTime is still chasing them down though, and is going to be able to find a handful more of those units. ShoWTime has a scary looking army. He has moved all the way across the map, and he does have 4 High Templars somewhere. Does he have them? Okay, they are joining his army soon, so I think as soon as those arrive, it may be go time here for ShoWTime.
Yeah, and there's 0 ghosts actually on the field for HeRoMaRinE, 1 in the making, but really won't have much energy to work with, so it could be really, really good for ShoWTime here. However, the fan out here for HeRoMaRinE is wonderful. The concave is going to favor him. It's going to be difficult to push into that. Templars are being very careful not to get EMP'd. Little do they know there is no real EMP or a real threat, really. Now they come forward. A lot of energy on these Templars. This should be an easy cleanup for ShoWTime as HeRoMaRinE is forced to retreat up his ramp. Now 1 EMP to save them all, and it's gonna land actually on a little bit, but there's still a couple of Templars with at least 3 or 4 storms to spare.
Yeah, and one of those High Templar I want to mention have so much energy that they're nearly banked up to full, and if they're banked up to full, it requires more than 1 EMP to actually get rid of the storms. That is going to be a bit too much, and ShoWTime, with a spectacular earlier game defense, turns it into a W later on with the attack.
Yeah, I mean, that is just the sort of situation where your build order just lines up so nicely against your opponents that you just get an advantage to snowball from. And yeah, ShoWTime did a wonderful job of kind of just keeping that lead, and HeRoMaRinE wasn't able to find much of anything, right? So it was kind of perfect all the way through to just have the 3 Stalkers, the minimum viable product for a defense against the Cyclone and the Medevac that first came out with a 1 Widow Mine, and then to have the Storm hit seconds, before or after he needed it, depending on where you want to storm, I guess. But pretty much just perfect timing from ShoWTime on both ends. And when that happens twice in a game early on, it's pretty difficult to make anything happen on the other side.
No, absolutely, and you're so right to point out just seconds actually were the thing that mattered there, and that's where all of those tiny little refinements and be able to make sure that everything is perfectly timed out, that you don't have any hesitation in your build order, your decisions, like you were saying how he had the Stalkers but he wasn't committing and being aggressive with them. Imagine if he had warped in a couple extra earlier Stalkers because he was getting aggressive. That delays the storm, and then yeah, maybe you have a couple extra Stalkers that picked away at a few Marines or something. Maybe there's 2 or 3 less Marines, but now your storm is 8-10 seconds more delayed. Now the army jumps in with Sim on top of your High Templar as you're still waiting for storm to finish. All of those things cascade and could turn that into just an immediate loss, but just all the right decisions line up there for ShoWTime perfectly, and he gets solid defense there for game number 1.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it delays something, right? Like if you're gonna make more units, then either your tech or your economy is gonna be delayed. That is the triangle that we work with pretty much, is army, tech, and economy, and ShoWTime balanced that perfectly in that game, right? And it does take a little bit of kind of like luck in a sense, or foresight to anticipate your opponent's moves, or like preparation, whatever you want to call it. It worked out perfectly, kind of like blindly. So that was one of those games that's an off game in a sense, where a player just gets an advantage from choosing the right avenues preemptively almost.
Well, hopefully HeRoMaRinE won't run into a similar situation moving into game number 2 as we head into, it looks like, Equilibrium for the second map. And I guess thankfully, if you are able to kind of think about that game as just a little bit unfortunate with how the build orders worked out, it's usually a little bit easier to move on into game number 2 and not feel too distressed about feeling like, oh no, I just got outplayed for 10 or 15 minutes or something. So let's see if this guy up here at the top right hand side of the map can bounce back. It's Mousesports' HeRoMaRinE.
And in the top left hand side, he is ShoWTimE for big. He's massive.
Yeah, and this would be a big win for him, I would say, because these European brackets, man, they are stacked as all heck. And if you are able to advance on forward, I think that, you know, I would say ShoWTimE can make it on to the quarterfinals. There's a decent chance he'll face off versus MaxPax, which is still going to be a very, very tough battle. But man, it is going to be heavily preferred than going through the lower bracket where some brutal players are going to be actually showing up there in the next day or two.
Yeah, no doubt about that. ShoWTimE's going to scout this barracks, but I'm sure that's well within HeRoMaRiNE's expectations, though. Seeing
he loses that fight,
reaction
though.
is to fight it. Yeah, it's not a winnable fight. So 2 SCVs have to be pulled off the line. One to continue to build, the other one to take the probe on. So this is a very delayed barracks now.
Yeah, and actually, ShoWTimE gonna go for the gold. Let's go,
Wow.
ShoWTimE.
I mean, this is wild. This is wild. Like, it's so difficult to defend that gold against like Hellions and the likes. It's very unlikely for a Terran to want to go Hellions in this matchup early on. Like, you know, if there's a tight wall at the natural, unless you have like Hellion Liberator or some way to elevate him into the main or something of the sorts. But I feel like if HeRoMaRinE can sniff this one out, Hellions would be a wonderful choice to harass here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be kind of funny too, because the delay on the barracks means that even though it was the minor proxy in the sense that it was just on the low ground, but the barracks being delayed means that the Reaper doesn't actually scout out any faster, really. The Reaper is not even going across the map exactly to ShoWTimE's base. He's scouting around for that probe first. And that again is also going to delay HeRoMaRiNE's information about the fact that there is no natural nexus. It's at the gold.
Yeah, and there's a lot of area to scout on this map as well. So he's looking for proxies. He's trying to figure out what happened to that probe as well. And he's not going to find anything. So you're completely right. I mean, every second that passes is a good one for ShoWTimE at this point, as the Nexus is going to be situated now at his gold. And that is a very, very strong gold. It has a rich Vespin Geyser as well. So one of the strongest golds we have if unpunished. And it's so beautifully designed because it is so easy to harass. It is so accessible. Like, there's a high ground right next to it, and then there's the open mineral line and a lot of space behind it and in front of it. And you know, there's like 2 different high grounds that lead to it. So it's the most exposed base ever, but the payoff is huge. And that means, again, if HeRoMaRinE doesn't find it, if HeRoMaRinE doesn't sniff it, if he doesn't punish it, he's gonna be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and he should absolutely know something is up, because he did see that there is a lack of natural expansion over here. So I imagine surely that's got to be one of the things running through his mind. There's not any real other tech that should be just completely stopping the advancement of a natural.
And yet it's such a strange goal, and I personally haven't seen this in this matchup, much less at this level, that I'm not sure that you know, it'll click for him and be like, you got the gold, don't you? And even if he did at this point, it's not like you can go back for Hellions or anything like that. Like, he's kind of just set to continue on with the game as he normally would. That's a good catch.
That is a very, very nice catch there. That's actually going to put ShoWTimE pretty in the dark. I guess he can still move across the map with some of the adepts, but this goes back to what you were saying about this gold is so far away. It's not exactly easy to defend. And ShoWTimE didn't get a ton. I mean, he did get a little bit of scouting information there. I guess he did manage to poke forward enough that he saw Widow Mines are being made instead of, you know, Hellions or something along those lines, or an extra Cyclone. So maybe he feels a little bit more comfortable moving out with the adepts. But no, he's going to stay back. He needs to be ready for an attack at either one of his bases, which, again, very spread out.
Yeah, most definitely. But to your point, they are very, very spread out. He has the most mobile unit in the game, arguably, right? Like in the Phoenix. I mean, you could say that circling is a little bit faster technically, but it doesn't. But it does care for terrain, whereas the Phoenix does not. So it's awesome that ShoWTimE is kind of playing a brand of Protoss that I'm not used to seeing from him, where he is
Widowmine drop coming to the goal.
Let's see it. Not
Ooh.
much to be found yet.
Yeah.
At least HeRoMaRinE shows that he's well aware of what this is.
Yep.
But still, you see the Phoenix are ready to react, right? Like they're gonna be so mobile here that it's kind of the perfect choice for bases that are so spread apart. So I really love what we're seeing out of ShoWTimE, like I was saying, because I don't think of him as the type of player that will get super creative and like solve for unique new situations kind of on his own. I've always seen him as the very standard, very macro-oriented Protoss, but it seems like he's really prepared for this one. He's bringing like something unique in both games.
Yeah, I know. I've been loving it so far. It's been a treat to see HeRoMaRinE get maybe a little bit. I can't tell if it's a supply block or not, as he does have maybe like one barracks or something being stalled out for a little bit. But Depot's going to be on the way to help complete that wall in. And the problem is, I do think that, like you were saying before, this gold is really powerful because it's not just the gold minerals, it's also the rich Vespian gas geyser. And now with his third on up, surely this is going to lead into ShoWTimE getting ready for a nice timing, especially with the Temple Archives and stuff finishing on up. He's going to have 1+1 armor, he's going to have charge, and he has a proxy gateway on the way. So I feel like the proxy gateway, if nothing else, is a good sign that ShoWTimE is getting ready to kind of ramp things up in a bit.
And it definitely makes sense because he has taken advantage of that gold early on and whatnot. Like the worker count is a little bit deceiving. I wonder if there's an income graph that we can pop up just to try to figure out how the economy has been going. I'll imagine that it's being popped up on the screen, as I can't see it. What's the hotkey for it?
It's a numpad 1.
Numpad 1. I don't have numpad on this PC.
See, this is why no numpad keyboards suck. All right.
That's exactly why.
Yeah. Sorry, this is an argument I've had with Sal many times. We do have Hussein Phoenix actually going to be setting off the Widow Mines, I think. Ooh.
That was the
both Widow Mines getting set off. Third base completely abandoned. Anti-armor missile hits some of these zealots, but I think ShoWTimE's going to be a lot happier with how this engagement started than.
Oh wow! Ooh. And the SCVs kind of offer themselves here at the wall. ShoWTimE wants to continue to breach and try to kill his opponent, so I guess it was warranted to pull the SCVs when HeRoMaRinE did, as he identifies this is a very powerful all-in, and it is. Could use force fields and will to section off the units from the ramp, and now goes to town on the SCVs. The Zealots are still the primary weapon that he has to work with here, so he can't really go after the SCVs without being shelled at from the entire army at the ramp. So instead, he's just doing everything that he can at the natural, and this is looking like a 2-0 start for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, even actually getting a supply block there before he kills off more of the army that was being elevated to the low ground. Even if HeRoMaRinE cleans up at this point, so much damage has been done that it is unrecoverable. ShoWTimE with a 2-0 lead now in the best-of-5 series. Man, cats, I'm not gonna lie. ShoWTimE is making this look super duper wildly good for himself. I know that last, like this most recent game was a very strange game with the gold. The first game was also very nicely timed out with the when those build orders got chosen for the series, and things just lined up so perfectly. But this is just not the series I was expecting so far.
No, absolutely not. And that is what's exciting. It's maybe there was some downplaying of what ShoWTimE did in the first game, in the sense that we didn't get to see both players match up against each other in full force because one had an unfair advantage from build orders. But at the same time, that is super exciting, both in that game and this one. The fact that ShoWTimE is doing things differently, the fact that he seems to have prepared for his opponent. He's not just a wall looking to just absorb everything. It feels like he's also ready to kind of throw in some wrenches. And yeah, I just love that, seeing that specifically from a player like him that has a reputation for standard, right? So yeah, I mean, well-deserved first 2 games, and we'll see if he has something cool prepared for Oceanborn as well.
Yeah, pretty sick. The wall is becoming sentient. Can he turn into a demon wall in this third game as we head, as you said, into Oceanborn? Because Big Gabe, the gatekeeper, he's a gate in a sense. A gate is also a form of wall, but so far he is struggling a little bit more in this series, and maybe he'll be able to catch a break here. Maybe he'll be able to do something without kind of having his strategy sort of thrown for a loop based on what ShoWTimE happened to be doing that same game.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and find out. I mean, Gabe, he has been pretty passive as well, right? And that is maybe what hasn't been favoring him in this series so far. Like it's very low commitment to go for the one Cyclone, one mine drop, and in the second game, it really didn't feel like he had much prepared for the early game either. So maybe proactivity would favor him, but we are loaded into the game, and in the top left-hand side, leading the series 2-0, he's ShoWTimE.
And down here on the bottom right-hand side of the map, the gatekeeper from Mouse Sports, he is HeRoMaRinE.
Beast.
An absolute beast. And you know, this is a player that you really just can't sleep on. He's one of the players that I think for a while was known as the Protoss killer. And I think he still has an incredible TVP. But ShoWTimE has just been getting the better end of him in these first two games. If it happens that, you know, once you can, it happens, right? Get a little bit lucky. Even Serral or Rainer or something will sometimes drop maps in kind of silly ways. Twice, you're like, okay, that's a bit unfortunate. It's a little bit unlucky or something. You know, things are not going quite the way you wanted. 3 times in a row, though, I'm just going to have to say that ShoWTimE is really, really just maybe reading Gabe really well at that point.
No, for sure. It seems like he's the one that has prepared a little bit more and, you know, is adapting a little bit more. And when we saw Gabe, I think at his best in this particular matchup, a lot of what he was doing was a little bit more aggressive in the early and mid game. And he also had a very good sense, I feel like, for when he could move out with really like ridiculous looking little squads of units that like maybe shouldn't stand to do too much, but you know, he just knew how much his opponent had based on the reads that he got, and you know, could move out with just about anything and make it work. It felt like. So we haven't seen much of that in the first 2 games at least. Instead, we've seen a pretty passive Gabe, and the Overlord's gonna get caught here.
Yeah, look, kind of interesting. He decided to still jump up the wall. I wonder if there's a situation where sometimes you do spot something there that Gabe was hoping to see, because that should have been a known quantity that you're probably just going to lose the Reaper doing that.
Yeah, more likely than not. I agree with you.
Oh, a bit unfortunate, but I guess the Reaper going down is not always just like the end of the world or anything like that. But Cyclone follow up here once again from Gabe, something a lot of these Terran players have been doing. It's going to be the Twilight Council for ShoWTimE instead, just adding on that blink as per usual.
Yeah, so this is the most standard I think we've seen ShoWTimE play so far, which is yeah, cool to see. I suppose it's kind of just reverting, going back to his safe zone of sorts. Blink is going to be as normal as it gets, the robo to follow as well. And yeah, we'll see if he looks to transition into a very fast storm like he did in the first game, or if he has some aggression planned with the blink himself. As 2 Marines are going to cross the map just looking for information. And on the side of Big Gabe, I mean, there's nothing too crazy going on either, right? Just like a couple extra barracks going down to make it up to 3. And 1 medevac being made without the reactor whatsoever. So we're going to see a little bit of a mine drop with a couple of Marines and the Cyclone potentially.
Yeah, you know, in some ways, this does look kind of similar-ish to what HeRoMaRinE was doing in game number 1, but losing a handful of those Marines early on, the Cyclone getting pushed back quite early, ShoWTimE actually being active out on the map and seeing everything quite early on as well, and Blink not quite finished up, so he can't actually blink out of the way of that Widow Mine, but picks that off as well. He is going to end up losing the Adept to the Cyclone, but, you know, this was like, in some weird ways, even though ShoWTimE transitioned so fast into Storm in game number 1. He had gone for like a 3-gate Blink Stalker opening, I believe, in game number 1. This game, it's just a 2-gate Blink Stalker opening as he gets up a fast 3rd Nexus. And I feel like he kind of walks away in almost a better-ish position than he did in the first game.
Well, does lose a Stalker and an Adept, but he put the fear of God in HeRoMaRinE by the looks of it, because he was trying to move out with that medevac, right? Like that medevac was without a reactor from the starport, so it definitely had a purpose to serve. But now without the Widow Mine being there, he's been hesitant. He sees Blink very early, or the potential for it. He sees units out on the map, and he doesn't feel like he should go out on the map. So on paper, I think units lost and whatnot, maybe it's decent for HeRoMaRinE or a wash, but mentally it feels like it worked out really well for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, and even, I mean, just the mental relief of picking off the Widowmine, I think early on is just always so nice, of knowing, all right, of course, ShoWTimE, you expect him to still be able to handle the Widowmine drop and handle that multi-prong harass, but it's just nice knowing that you don't have to even worry about it. You can just be active and focused and committed to controlling your stalkers, finding little pickoffs like this, stimming combat shields close to finishing, but not quite there just yet. And we'll see if HeRoMaRinE actually notices the observer here after he pushes back the stalkers. Ooh.
Yep. And he's going to juggle with those stalkers. I mean, pretty much perfectly here as ShoWTimE picks off a lot of units. I think loses one stalker all day, and that observer is giving him perfect information like you were talking about. So he's going to be well prepared. He's going to be paying a lot of attention. And HeRoMaRinE is trying his best to push out and make something of this push, but he's been taxed a lot.
Yeah. Another stalker does go down over there, and I do want to mention that I think HeRoMaRinE did actually do a nice pickup there on a Marauder that was getting target fired down, so does manage to save it with his own form of blink. But this is the big power surge coming out forward from ShoWTimE. Charge and +1 weapons going to be lining up pretty close to the time of the stack. Charge is about to finish, but still 10 seconds away. HeRoMaRinE getting close to this base, but how many zealots are the even out right now for ShoWTimE? It looks like only 2, but he should have enough time to actually get the zealots up, especially since HeRoMaRinE goes around the long way.
Yeah, and the sentries are the important part here. He made 4 sentries preemptively, so he has the ability to force field and kind of stall as the medevac is going to get picked off. The Widowmine will also get picked off. On the other side, the 4th for ShoWTimE is forced to be cancelled as the observer tries to mirror the army's movements of HeRoMaRinE, so ShoWTimE should be well aware that there's a medevac going into his main as he ambushes potentially the rest of the forces here of HeRoMaRinE. Does a good job HeRoMaRinE to tuck the medevac in the back, so it's not easy to catch, but these stalkers will have no trouble killing this medevac, and one of the Widowmines, the second one, will go down, only killing 1 probe.
Yeah. Solid defense there from ShoWTimE. Like you said, losing the 4th base is a bit unfortunate, but it was fairly early on in building. And remember, at the 3rd orbital command is only just now finishing up here for HeRoMaRinE. He does not exactly have some stellar economy behind this. He's going to just have a kind of normally timed 3rd base with his 5 barracks down. But HeRoMaRinE is looking for more damage than what he's been able to do so far, I feel like.
Yeah, no doubt. At this point, he has been the player that's more invested into the aggression than as compared to ShoWTimE, who has been more invested into the economy, I would argue, and yet he has lost more units so far, right? Like he hasn't been able to find damage with his Widowmines whatsoever. This attack looks a little bit scary, however, it's a good position as he hugs the wall as well. On the other side, ShoWTimE with his own counter aggression, however, but a very nice spot for HeRoMaRinE to tuck his units into. So that will delay things. On the other side, HeRoMaRinE applying pressure as well. This is mostly gateway units and the shield battery wasn't done. This is where the delay of the Nexus actually comes in pretty handy. Oh no, just when HeRoMaRinE was catching a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, that is going to be very tough pill to swallow there for HeRoMaRinE, as 13 workers also going down inside the main base. And granted, that was at the cost of quite a few zealots that ShoWTimE had committed to that little warp in on the other side of the map, but ShoWTimE manages to defend his 4th base on this 2nd time. He has +2 weapons nearly finished up, and with a robotics bay done, his Colossus are going to be on the way, still finding an extra worker or 2 there. And did the War Prism make its way out? The War Prism did manage to survive as well. No Vikings actually out on the map just yet either to chase it down, so ShoWTimE's going to be feeling probably pretty decent about his kind of potential to really swell into a bigger Protoss death ball later.
Yeah, I mean, he's a man who swells. And we see the Zealots being dropped into the main as well. The Widowmines are going to do a little bit of friendly damage onto the SCVs. The War Prism is still around. The War Prism and the medevac spotted each other, by the way, so ShoWTimE should be in position, or at least aware of this medevac if he got to catch a glimpse of that. And otherwise, he's going to be pretty happy with his 4th. Clearing that War Prism is really nice, obviously, for HeRoMaRinE. That should allow him some space on the map if he wants to take it.
Yeah, 4 Widowmines coming into that natural. The Stalkers are nearby, but that does mean that the Widowmines do get an opportunity to burrow, and they don't quite get massive connections off. But again, it's just delayed mining time, forcing a bit of a reaction. And as all these units move forward to try, or move back, I should say, to try and deal with the Widowmines, you see on the minimap that HeRoMaRinE is moving forward with his big army. He's able to safely journey across the map without being picked away at by stalkers or really just deal with any kind of annoying harassment there. He's going to deal with the Zealot run by, but should be able to get up some units pretty quickly to help defend this soon.
Yeah, no worries there. Only 4 SCVs have fallen. So the real aggression is on the other side. The Widow Mines are so nicely positioned as well. The Zealots all clumped up towards the end, and they did a wonderful job of softening those units up. So the rest of the attack didn't pack much of a punch for ShoWTimE. HeRoMaRinE doing a good job of stabilizing in this game for sure. And yeah, it looks pretty close. It looks like it's anyone's game at this stage. Big stim.
Yeah, that's unfortunate stim. I was gonna say, like, the biggest thing that I feel like is going well for ShoWTimE still is just the Viking count. Up until I think in about 5 or 6 seconds, the Viking count was quite low, given that there were 3 Colossus out. And if there was that big attack from HeRoMaRinE, if he had committed there, it seemed like ShoWTimE was maybe going to be able to take advantage of those Colossus and the Colossus count that he had built up. But it does seem like with 4 Vikings able to be made at a time, HeRoMaRinE is playing some quick catch up, and now that kind of window has sort of gone out the window. And this big medevac drop over the top right hand base is going to pull ShoWTimE really far out of position.
Yeah, ShoWTimE already used this blink just to narrow the gap here to try to help his Zealots with firepower. So the next blink now comes off cooldown to try to get rid of the medevacs. And he needs a little bit more here, as a few Marines are going to chase away the Stalkers. Now with the next warping of Zealots, the Stalkers can focus onto the medevacs as the Zealots give chase. And when all is said and done, you know, like a good defense for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, not too bad. I'm sorry, one of the things that's actually been on my mind lately is when the Terran players are going to get the medevac upgrade from the, I know it requires the fusion core and everything, but it does make me think, you know, as so many medevacs end up dying and maybe you're focusing on making more Vikings, when do you actually get that medevac upgrade so you can make the most of the medevacs you have? But seems like he's just gonna spend a couple extra cycles remaking medevacs he's been losing. In the meanwhile, ShoWTimE gets up more disruptors, and it does seem like very shortly we could see the actual big army clash that has been teased at for quite a bit of time. But HeRoMaRinE maybe actually not thinking so, as he does circumvent the army on the north side and starts heading toward the top right hand side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely massive army here for ShoWTimE as well. Very basic, but Zealots are very, very strong, especially in open field. So HeRoMaRinE has to think twice, has to kind of hug those walls and those high grounds as best as he can to tax the Zealots as they go up. A couple of Widow Mines get burrowed, anticipating the next set of aggression, but it will trigger only onto one of the Zealots at the front. The second one is pretty good, but there isn't any real follow-up. I don't know where the rest of the army of Big Gabe is here, as he's going to be kiting now very nicely, but the Disruptors are there. On the other side, Big Gabe is doing a little bit of counter-aggression as well. If he can hold here, that'll be fantastic, but 182 supply to 143. This is beginning to smell like a 3-0. ShoWTimE looking for a connection here. HeRoMaRiNE's going to be paying attention now, looking for the probes in the back of the base that he just killed. If he can hold on the other time, it's not on the other side, it's not over, but it looks extremely difficult.
It is going to be really tough for HeRoMaRinE to clean up this army that is now knocking at his front door. Ooh. The wall has shown up in front of him, and the Disruptor hits, even though they don't need to be that massive to take decent trades, he's getting pretty decent connections. And the Ghosts alone, you know, you can EMP this army, but something has to kill it still.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm almost surprised that ShoWTimE gave up that position, because when you have units up against the wall, Disruptors are even stronger, right? Because you can't actually run away from them. So that was a pretty strong position for the Disruptors, but HeRoMaRinE also has chasing units out in the open field like the Zealots and the Stalkers, or I'm sorry, ShoWTimE does, and this looks like a game for him and a series to go along with it. 3-0 is what it looks like, Ravi. It's wild.
Yeah, the engagements toward the end there for ShoWTimE getting a little bit spread out and turning a bit awkward, maybe giving HeRoMaRinE a bit of more of a fighting chance. But now that all the Disruptors are back with the army and that one Colossus chipping away at those Marines, you can see the Disruptors start to force this army further and further back. A couple of Stalker Warpins actually, yeah, will not hurt at all, as a lot of those medevacs are really working overtime here to try and keep his army alive. As you said before, Cats, ShoWTimE looking like he's going to be pulling out a 3-0 over here, and goddamn, did he do a great job with this series, I gotta say.
Clean. I mean, yeah, this was not a close series, really. This game a little bit more contested.